Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Doesn't Make the Cut podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hayetsk, Ada Gaba Hayetsk, Nick Dangeli Dawayu. My Nisga'a name is Hayetsk, which translates to the backbone of the copper shield. My Tsimshian name is Gaba Hayetsk, which means new copper, and my English name is Nick Dangeli. I'm of the Nisga'a, Tsimshian, Tlingit, Haida, Gitxsan, Tsetsaut, and Colville nations. In the film industry, I'm an actor, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a film director, film screenwriter, as well as in a modeling agency known as Supernaturals. And if you're new here, welcome to Doesn't Make the Cut podcast. We're an Indigenous film, TV review podcast that you can only watch on YouTube, listen on Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We would like to acknowledge that we're bringing this podcast to you from the traditional unceded Coast Salish territory of our Musqueam, Squamish, and Swillituth relatives of what is known as Vancouver, BC, in Canada. We raise our hands and would like to thank our Coast Salish relatives for allowing us to live, work, and podcast in their traditional territory. All right, so my dad, Mike Dangeli, and I, we had such an amazing conversation when we were reviewing Obi-Wan Kenobi, Episode 6, season finale. You can watch that right now. Master Northwest Coast artist in Carver, co-leader in the Hayetsk dance group People of the Copper Shield. He is Nisga'a, Tsimshian, Tlingit, and Tsetsaut, a movie lover, and has starred in movies such as Red Snow in 2021, playing Lieutenant Colonel Cobbler, directed by Marie Clements. 2020's Monkey Beach, directed by Loretta Todd, where he played the Bugwus. Has been featured in many documentaries and short films. Has been featured all across BC, Canada, the United States, and many parts of the world for his art in the dance group. Veteran U.S. Army Airborne Ranger. Most of all, he's my dad. But we had such a good conversation that it led into a part 2. In this part, we're going to be talking about how my dad got into his overall love for film, for movies, for TV, and what got him into being in the roles that he's in as well. And so, again, Poex and Dad, thank you for being a part of this in this channel. Really appreciate it. And yeah, let's get into this part 2 with Mike Dangeli. What made you love watching movies and TV and film just overall? And what made you want to start out into branching out now into doing movies, and we shared the screen on Bones of Crows, and we're in many documentaries and short films. What really drawn you to do that? So there's a nice 2-part question there.
What got me into watching it, with growing up with my grandparents and my mom, your granny used to love making up stories. And because we were poor, it was kind of one of those things where it was beautiful to have that. And being the only child, I had a really overly active imagination, and I loved to read. I was, your grandpa Dan would read to me, and I read all the classics. We didn't have a TV for a long time, and so when we did have TV, it was kind of one of those things where it was really special. But I was able to go to the movies all the time, and I was able to save up my own money to go to the movies. Like, I think I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark in the movie theater like 7 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was kind of, it was one of those, and it was cheap back then. It wasn't like how it is now. I really loved storytelling, and I loved how the stories that my grandparents and your grandparents would tell me, and how it would change each time they told me. And so it became a different way of looking at things, or a different story arc, or what have you. And so I always loved that. And then when I was reading, I would always see in my head what I was reading, the action that was going on. I could see, and I would place my own actors at the time who I thought were super cool, and who sometimes they if it were a film, it wouldn't work because you can't have Harrison Ford playing everything, right? So he was my my hero as a kid. But I really loved storytelling. And then when I was able to afford, and I'm talking Betamax and VHS, way back in the day. your grandpa Dan had a Betamax, and so he would record movies. He would, of course, pirate them and what have you. And so, or record, we would record them off. We'd get cable for. They would do like a free week of, being poorer. They would have cable for. You get a trial period. You only have to pay 1 month after this week trial, or what have you. Or they do HBO for free for a week, and we would record everything, and then we get rid of cable and just watch all these movies. And so, I absolutely fell in love with it. And then, when movies started getting cheaper and then things going to DVD, I absolutely loved doing that. And then when just before you were born and I would have days off, I would sometimes go through 3 or 4 movies starting in the morning all the way till late at night. Some people would think, what a goofy way to spend your day off. But I absolutely loved the storytelling. I loved the adventure. I loved getting lost in the character development. I think, not to blow my own horn, but I think I got you into movies by the amount of movies and things that I would take you to and talk to you about. And it was always, well, what do you want to watch? And you, of course, wanted to watch this or this, and you loved the action. And so I would say, well, how about this one? And I really attribute your no for getting you into filmmaking, Indigenous films, because that's something I'm still learning as well. But I sure love all of it. I love those big action blockbusters. Sometimes I have a hard time with them because they're filled with so many tropes or they're reboots. I'm like, you don't have to reboot it. It was great. Why, if you're gonna remake it, remake it. Don't try to, add weird things to it. But there's some people who feel like the Marvel universe or Star Wars is a waste of time, or it doesn't make you think, or it isn't theater, and I have a little bit of trouble with it. Yes, there's things that are hokey and a little bit of goofiness to it, but that's what it's about. It wasn't it when they made it, yes, they were taking themselves serious, but it wasn't goofy like, say, Army of Darkness, but it was serious enough where there were goofy things that happened and it kind of made you chuckle and it lightened the mood, just like life. And I think that I really enjoy that. I enjoy especially things that I read in comic books, and of course, as I said, I would read those things and they would come alive in my head, and that's what got me into it, with our dance group and performing. And I've been performing all of my life with our traditional singing and dancing and our mask dancing and what have you, which is a form of storytelling, which is a form of theater. And I never saw myself as an actor, but, I took on a title of what's called Get Sunk, which is our secret society of artists and carvers. And they're show people, they're showmen, and being able to host potlatches and keep everybody's attention through all of it. Even our performances is a smaller version of that. A potlatch is a longer version of that. So you're looking at maybe a TV show in a movie or an epic movie when you do a potlatch, right? And if you're looking at it from that aspect, but keeping people's attention and building and building and building is something that we do as Indigenous performers, or people who host potlatches and keeping people's attention. And so getting into acting is something that people always said I should do, and I never considered myself an actor. The first movie I was in, outside of student films, because I did a bunch of student films for you while you were going to Cap U, and I really enjoyed that. I know, got all your classmates in the feelers when you and I did that one movie where we were supposed to be estranged, and it was so difficult for us to get into that kind of mode and that character because we're not that way. But I thought of things like with my own biological father, who I have nothing to do with, right? And I thought about, well, what is this? How it would be, and having that, really digging into my own life. And so I found that maybe that makes me a method actor. I don't know. I always kind of chuckle when I look at some of those. I'm not going to go sit like Heath Ledger and sit in a room by myself for 6 months to get in mood for a movie.
Yeah.
Uh, but I took my own life experiences, and then the first real movie was Red Snow, Marie Clement's movie. And I'm a veteran. I served 10 years. Was in the U.S. Army, and I took those experiences in my time as a in the airborne and in the Rangers and the infantry, and I applied it to being in that movie, which I I was in my late 40s at the time. I was like, holy crap, I'm too old to be running around buildings, and they had me sliding against the pavement because we were in this ambush scene. And they were like, okay, can we do this again? Can we do it? And finally, it was like the 10th time of me sliding across the pavement on my knees. The stunt guy, who is also a veteran, he's like, "Hey, Ranger, you want some knee pads?" And I'm like, "You ass! You should have given me those things." Because each time I'm getting up and I'm feeling in my 40s, right? And that was a blast. But I felt I was so removed from being a soldier because I was in my 20s when I got out. I joined at 17, and you can do the math. 27s when I officially got out, but I was so far removed from that I didn't think I still had it in me, and they had to tell me a couple times to slow down because I was clearing the room like I was in when I was in combat, like what I was taught. And they're like, "That's great, Mike. It looks so real," because it was real. That was my training. But they were like, "You just got to slow down. The camera can't keep up with you." So that was a blast. Monkey Beach, Loretta Todd's movie, and where we were both in the movie, but we didn't have any scenes together. I played Bigfoot, and I was only supposed to be on one day, and Loretta's like, "Oh my god, it was so amazing. Let's get you in running around the woods the next day." And so, 4.5 hours sitting in the makeup chair was pretty cool. I'm 6'5", 250 pounds, so I'm a big Indian, and for me to play Bigfoot, I was like, of course I'm going to play Bigfoot. And my scenes were super short, but I sure had a blast doing that because you came on the set when I was there and got to sit with you. And then I was teaching at Naaxagilikyo, a Tsimshian K through 12 school. And I kept trying to say, let me go to the school in full makeup. And they're like, no, we can't. Contractually, you can't show anybody, and couldn't even post pictures of me until after the movie was released. But I had so much fun. Like, you took some really brilliant pictures of me in the woods, and it was really awesome. And to be able to sing our songs, singing victory song and full makeup and looking like a Sasquatch and drumming, I thought that was pretty dang cool, and to be able to do that. And then it really meant a lot to me to be in Marie's other movie, Bones of Crows, with you, watching and being a part of the white papers and being such a historical moment. We all had to do our homework, but at the same time, it was natural to be pissed off about the injustice that's going on. So there wasn't a lot of acting. I just thought about all the injustice that the Indian Act and everything that has, plagued our people since contact. I just put all of that into the film, into my character at that moment, and I was really grateful, you know, um, to the other actors that were sitting with her were saying do that, and listening to you and getting coached by you was awesome too. Saying, oh, just feel it, Dad. And I appreciated that because I don't know what they call it when you do junior. I guess I'm a junior actor now. I'm not a freshman. I'm not a sophomore. So yeah, I guess that's my third film. So I look forward to it. I wouldn't say no. I know I've been asked to do some other things like commercials and stuff, and I always read the script because I don't want to be co-opted into some weird bullshit that corporations try to get the magic Indian or the smiling. They try to get you to be whatever to co-opt in whatever political garbage they got going on. So I've been really selective. I look forward to when you're doing movies because I would love to be in a few of your films. If I'm going to continue on, I'd like to get some training because I'm a great pretender. I've been pretending all my life.
With taking your own life experiences, and even if it's not your own, but even just like people you've encountered, our family, our friends, and then bringing that into the role or the character that you're portraying, that's huge, and be able to take your own experiences and you know that just really just makes what you feel and then what what the camera is able to capture just 10 times. Like you just really feel it. Like I remember I watched the scene there in Red Snow, and it was just your character is in there. I just couldn't help smiling, and then once this thing happens to your character, it felt just so real that
Oh,
really really got me in the heart there.
a really cool little story about that, because Marie knows I've never acted like that before. I was in plays and stuff and in school and things, but never in a major motion picture. She's like, Mike, you've lost friends downrange. And I said, yeah. She goes, I want you to think about that. And so she let me sit with it and I thought about it. And then she goes, how would Michael and Nick feel if something were to happen to you? How would you feel? And I got heavier, heavier. How would your mom feel? And she's such a great director. She really got me in touch with it. And then how would you feel, or how would Mike Yell feel? And I'm like almost in tears. And she's like, action, and I just let the tears out. I thought about witnessing my own experience and watching friends transition. And I put that into it. And it was really graphic. It was to the point where Marie's like, this is brilliant. She's like, for never acting before, this is awesome. I don't know how much of this I'm going to show because I was like coughing up. They put like the fake blood. They had because I got shot in the neck in that scene and it's pumping out and I'm like pretending to cough I had a little bit of the syrup in my mouth and I'm coughing. And it just was so raw and emotional. And I was so pissed at her as well she goes, okay, cut. I got it. And I was like spitting out the blood and I was so mad. Get this shit off me. I was so mad because I was thinking about you guys. I was thinking about No, I was thinking about Granny, I was thinking about friends I lost, and it was such a raw place that I don't visit very often. That I was like, I need a cigarette. I had to go sit and I'm not much of a smoker, and I had to go stress smoke to get these feels to feel it, to let it go, to realize that I'm in a safe place, but I just revisited something that I saw when I was your age, and I don't wish that on anybody, but you know what, it really made for I felt one of my best scenes ever, and then running around in the woods in the Sasquatch suit was also drawing from my army days, drawing from being a hunter, and being on the land. I loved it. What was crazy is they, for the feet for me to have, they were two left feet. So I had two left feet as I was running through, as Sasquatch, which I thought was freaking hilarious, and Carmen Thompson.
Mhm.
And she was she was like, we just won't focus on the feet and running around in the woods. And at first I was running to one side and they're like, what are you doing? I said, I have two left feet, and they're, of course I had to let go of, when get super emotional or what have you, and that's something I learned in the military is I crack jokes, and that probably is like the most inopportune time to do it, but that's just me. And so I had to be serious, and everybody's kind of laughing, and then I shook that off, and then remembered running in the woods and doing things as a kid or in the hunting or even in the military. I drew upon that, and I really enjoyed that. And as you're right, you need to draw upon those life experiences, and hopefully it transitions well into what's on the screen. Sometimes it's all shown, sometimes just snippets. And I was used to that because of documentaries, and I've had people sit with me for hours, and I've talked of everything under the sun, and they only get like 2 minutes of that, 8 hours they sat with me.
How it goes sometimes.
That's right.
With the movies and film, I definitely the love and passion that was I was able to get from you watching all the movies. And I remember having your old studio over at the Original Friendship Center over on Hastings, all the movies, and every time I'd come and visit, and then when I eventually moved, always just put it on a movie, and you had all those VHS tapes, and I eventually inherited some of the VHS tapes there. And the just the our overall talks that we'd always have, talking about movies and, comics and whatnot. Like that's, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in with acting, with filmmaking, with hell, even having this podcast if it wasn't for you, Dad, and as well as for
Oh,
Noel too for getting me into Indigenous film, because the one story I I really love looking back to is when Noel asked me that question. I was about I was about like 13, about 13 or 14 at the time,
yeah, yeah,
and she asked me what what films I want to make, and I said, "Oh, I want to do action and comedy." And she took me to the film class that she was doing over in UBC, and Elenisa Bomsawan, she was there and able to watch her films and her documentaries, and that really inspired me into creating Indigenous films, having that voice and sharing into that. And so, yeah, if it wasn't for you two on there, I don't believe I would have fully brought myself into this. So,
oh.
thank you, Dad, for
Two
that.
thing, two things about that, and I think that's awesome. The first one is your nose getting with a Maori scholar here at University of Fraser Valley, and she's teaching
Hmm.
Indigenous filmmakers or Indigenous filmmakers course, and it's about Indigenous
Hmm.
movies and filmmakers, which I'm super stoked. I'm like, man, I wouldn't mind taking this class because I absolutely love that, and the Indigenous films that are from all over, and of course some actors like Taika Waititi are at that premier level, but the Maori woman's like, oh yeah, 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 I know him, and I'm like, oh awesome, and hearing all of that, and then of course all the people that knows is pretty amazing, and with those actors, and the fact that it's being offered at the university level, I think is badass. That says a lot about where our people are going with our storytelling and with the filmmaking. I think it's really awesome that it's being accepted, and especially at something that at a university. I think that's really awesome. The thing I remember about you growing up was watching you take your little action figures and you'd act out movies, not just your wrestling, but you would take them out and act movies or your own stories. I used to love watching you do all your storyboards growing up in my studio, and that was one way to keep you busy because you're like, you'd come over and you lean on me and you put your arm around me and you'd say, "Dad, how much longer are we going to be in the studio?" And that was why I was like, "Hey, why don't we watch this? You haven't seen this movie yet." And some of the movies, Noah would be like, "What the hell are you showing him this one for?" You know, and like Ninja Gaiden. I mean, that was like a really, as far as anime goes, there were some really messed up scenes in that movie, and all these movies that I showed you from the 80s and 90s, or even earlier, the 60s and 70s, and not just the mainstream ones, but just the different movies. Because people, I'd just buy VHS tapes in bulk and just say, hey, this is a cool one. I haven't seen this since I was a kid, and then watch it, go, Jesus, I can't remember. I can't believe I watched that, and being able to even look at some of the newer ones. I remember when we were living in Burnaby and sat you down and you watched part of Green Inferno with me, the Eli Roth, and I swear Eli Roth got some issues, man. Uh,
Oh,
and I'm like,
yeah.
maybe you shouldn't be watching this. You're like, oh no, I've seen worse stuff, Dad. You know, when when did you at the studio with you? I absolutely loved watching you do that as a kid, and keeping you busy that way and keeping your mind busy. I think that makes a full life. I think that makes also as part of our tradition of being able to be a storyteller and expanding our ways of storytelling. I really appreciate that. I'll have to share that with your no, and I imagine when she hear this, she's like, "Aw." As we do as Dangelis, gets us in the feelers. You almost got me all teared up there. But yeah, I'm really proud of you, son. I'm really proud of the stuff that with your acting and your modeling, and the fact that you're doing this, you're following your dream, and I think that's important. A lot of people didn't understand when quit university to become a full-time artist, a carver and painter and what have you. And people are like, "How are you going to support your family?" Well, I did it, and was able to do it well, I think, it means a lot. And even watching there's a 22-year age difference between you and your little brother Hayetsk, and how he's even now acting out his little action figures into doing things. And I could hear him just like you, ah, and ein instead of no. That's something I used to always hear you do, because that's that trope in all the movies and the cartoons that you would watch. You always hear the hero yelling no. Your brother's doing it in Somalia, which I think is pretty damn awesome.
Oh, that is so awesome. Oh, no, it's
So
super.
who knows? And who knows what your little brother's going to be doing
Yeah.
when he's your age, because you'll be my age when Hayeks is your age. I think that's pretty dang cool.
Holy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
So
goodness.
I look forward to that, and getting to watch you more on the big screen. I know we're really, anytime we see Monkey Beach on, we're always taking pictures and posting it to social media, and everybody's so excited.
Oh.
Of course, your granny gets really excited. She starts calling everybody, Nick's on APTN.
Oh. Oh, that is super sweet. Super sweet.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
no.
really proud of you, son. And thank you for having me on your guys' show. And I get to have this conversation again sometime in the future with you and Mike. I enjoy
Yeah.
listening to you guys, and what you both bring to the table. I think it's a good teamwork on both you guys, and it's nice to hear and talk movies, and that means a lot, because that's something that I absolutely love doing. We haven't been able to go to a movie theater a few years, and I was happy to go see Doctor Strange with you. I look forward to going to seeing other movies. I look forward to taking your brother. I'm still
Yeah.
think he might be just a little too little to go into movies just yet, but we stream them at home all the time. So
Yeah, yeah, no, I can't wait for that. It'd be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Um, so this one's just a quick rapid fire one. Just like a nice little fun question. So you're stuck on an island and you only have a TV. Of course, you have food, water, and all the other essentials. But there's three things that you would need to bring, that you would have with you. One, indigenous movie or TV show. Two is another movie that you just absolutely love watching. And three, a TV series that you'd bring with you.
wow, that's a tough one. I absolutely love watching Michael Gray Eyes. I love his movies. Blood Quantum, uh, Barnaby, that filmmaker, that
Mhm.
indigenous filmmaker. His horror movies uh, scare the hell out of me. And I do my Halloween Road to Halloween, my scary movie marathon, which is pretty damn cool. I just did it to get over my fear of horror movies, and I've been doing it every year for, I'd say, about 10 years now,
Mhm.
and or maybe even not quite 10 years, but I got to be an influencer about horror movies. People start following me and are asking what movies I'm going to start watching in September, or they start giving me those suggestions. But I would be a tough one to pick, but I love Michael's work. He just did one. Was it called Wild Indian, or something to that effect? He he I don't want to give it away, but he plays like a somebody who's killed people, and
Mhm.
it's about how he just, it was so, it's a thriller, and I'm like, oh my god, what a awesome movie. So it would be, that's a tough one. But I think I would do that. And as far as a movie, I absolutely cannot get tired of Casablanca. I love Casablanca. I watch it multiple times. I mean, I have movies that I get in the mood with and I just really want to watch, but that's one that I absolutely love watching. It's one of my favorites. I think Humphrey Bogart is OG in that, man. He's pretty awesome. So I love that one. And a TV series, that's a tough one. Because I watch a couple different TV series every year, and one's The Sopranos and the other one's Seinfeld. and I watched those. I've been watching them since both came out, and so that's a tough one. I think I would probably go Sopranos just because I absolutely catch new things that I had never caught before. But there's new series like Reservation Dogs that the season two's coming out, and I'm super stoked about. Rutherford Falls, Michael Gray Eyes, he's freaking awesome in that. So I'm excited about that. And it's so awesome that I actually just bought North of 60, the whole series, and I'm going to start watching that again because I watched those when I would come to Canada before I moved home. But I started watching it when I first moved here and moved back, I should say. And I remember watching it as a kid. So yeah, that's a tough question. I kind of gave more than one answer, but yeah, I think I'm going to stick with that.
No worries.
I
Oh,
think
I
I would
love.
just get APTN.
True, right?
Because they
Oh.
play all of those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, including
Oh.
some of those newer ones too. I think Predator was on there a couple of weeks ago.
Oh dang. Oh, that's awesome. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Dad, for taking time out of your day and coming on to the show. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate it, and would really love to have you on again. And really
it
appreciate, really
means a
love
lot.
you.
Oh, I
Oh,
love you too, son. I really means a lot, and I'm super proud of you guys. I'm super proud of you. Podcasts are awesome. I listen to them all the time. I like WTF with Mark Maron because
oh,
again, talking about actors and everything under the sun. It's cool to hear those behind the scenes stuff. So I'm really excited about what you guys are doing and talking about an indigenous point of view with contemporary movies that are current or TV shows. You got me curious about The Boys. I got to go watch that one next.
yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah, and I appreciate it. It's awesome to have that indigenous content and love hearing you guys saying the language and talking about things like, oh, when I was growing up in Omak, or Mike talking about where he grew up. And I just think that's badass. I think that's awesome. Keep it up. Really proud of you guys. I love you, son. Thank you for having me on. It got me in the feelers. It means a lot, and I look forward to come back and being able to have these conversations because you're as long as you're able to listen to these, I'm even when I'm not here, I'll be here, and I've really started thinking about those kind of things. I'm only turning 50, so I got another 50 years
yeah.
to kick around, but it's got me thinking about those things and these moments that we're able to share and talk about things that we love and what's important to us, and especially as an indigenous men and as indigenous people, it's important to have these moments and really talk about what moves us, what motivates us, and what makes us happy.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dad. Um, so where can people find you on social media and catch up with all the amazing work you're doing?
Oh, awesome. So we have our Get Hayetsk, gethayetsk.com. You can look at us on Instagram at Mike Dangeli or at Get Hayetsk. And of course, on Facebook, I got my artist page, Mike Dangeli, Nisga'a Artist, and Get Hayek's People of the Copper Shield on Facebook. I know I got to get a website. I keep dragging my feet on that. That's on my list of to dos. I'm just starting 7 totem poles here in the next little bit for our murdered and missing and residential school survivors. So I think in between that, I'm gonna sit down and actually put a website together sometime soon because everybody keeps telling me there's some really great ones that you can do now. So
Ooh, nice.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dad. Thank you.
All
And
right, son.
all right. Well, love you, Dad, and
Love
I'll
you too, buddy.
have a good rest of your night there.
You too, and thank you everybody for taking the time to listen and subscribe to these guys. This is pretty awesome, and follow their awesome adventure and talking about movies. You guys are some awesome filmmakers, and I can't wait to see what the future brings for you guys.
Thanks, and Dad.
Back at you, son.